Hello everyone, and welcome to another Chalice Chat. We are starting to get pretty close to the to the end of the initial run here, but after that last set of boss fights, I just wanted to come and show I've done a couple things off screen. So after I fought that boss in 2 hours or so real time, lots of boss attempts that failed, that had to get cut down into a montage. But as you can see now, I currently have 178 blood vials in storage, out of a total possible of 600. That number had been down to 4, and I went ahead and refilled that off screen because that was just basically a lot of grinding. Thought that would be pretty boring to watch. I'm showing you my status now to show that while I didn't really do anything to level up, I realized that I had, in the course of recording Translation Born, been given access to Carol runes, and I, for whatever reason, had never equipped them. So I came and I have the air, lake, and moon runes equipped now, for the time being. So that's what our new setup is looking like. That's what I did after the last episode off camera. And now, after touching in, we are ready to jump back into the Lower Hintertombs Chalice, now for Layer 3. Here we go. Alright, right back where we left off after fighting that last boss. Let's try... Oh, that's probably an enemy right there. So that's probably the way to go forward. But let's just quickly double back here, because this is... Oh, and let me pull out a torch so I can see a little bit better. Because this is pretty clearly the way back up, and not really getting lost or turned around with this time at the start, which is good. Step in the right direction. And let's just quick... I don't think there are ever any illusory walls in this area, but check just in case. And I see you with your glowing knife right there. I'm not sure whether or not this is the final layer of this particular Chalice dungeon. We will find out as I play. I was kind of expecting someone to be in there, to be honest, so not 100% taken by surprise. Sometimes they surprise me even when I expect them. That did not happen this time. But yeah, sometimes, especially as we get lower, rather than end in 3 layers, the dungeons end in 4. And I don't know off the top of my head whether that's the case with this one or not. I suspect that, again, we're only going to have 3 layers. That's kind of the standard. That's kind of the default setup, is that you have 3 layers of dungeon. And then you fight the final boss and you're done. But occasionally there are dungeons that have 4. And I'm making the end of this particular Chalice dungeon, this Lower Hintertombs Chalice, the end of the initial run of Chalice Chats, where after we're done exploring this place, we're going to come back and we're going to get back to Translation Born for a little while, and then after some time spent with Translation Born, we're going to come back and make a little bit more progress in the Chalice dungeons when we're more of an appropriate level. I mean, as you can see, things are starting to get a little bit out of hand in terms of the damage that the enemies can do to me and the damage that I can do to them. Perhaps best exemplified in that last boss battle. And I would switch to a gun, except then I wouldn't be able to see. So I think I'm going to stick with my hit and run strategy here. And yep, I'm not even going to bother trying to rally up for this guy. Oh man, they wait forever on that really long held attack, don't they? Keeping the distance, healing up. Lightning, keeping my distance, healing up. Lightning. And now I'm ready for a strike from you that I can dodge and then follow up on, like that. And that's that for that guy. Excellent. I like when I see the end of them. However, I'm already 6 blood vials down as we start this dungeon. So, yeah, that's gonna make things pretty tricky as we go forward. We're gonna see how that plays into things. Yeah, so I'm really thinking that it's getting to about the point where these depth 3 chalices, I mean, they're still doable. At least they have been up to this point. I don't know what this floor is going to be like. But starting to get towards the steeper end of the challenge curve, and I miss doing Translationborn, so we're gonna use that as an excuse to progress a bit more in the main game. We've got a whole bunch more to talk about that I'm excited to get to, especially as things start to transition away from what they have been and more towards the latter part of the game. The story is really going to pick up and go in an interesting direction that I'm excited to explore the translation of. So, look forward to that, I suppose. Could be at the end of after the end of the next episode. Maybe it might be a bit longer. We'll just have to see how things go. But we are coming up on the end of this initial run of Chalice Chats, which is a very long way for me to say something that I started the episode by saying briefly. So, I mean, if you're not used to my roundabout ways of speaking, especially when playing this game by now, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so it looks like we have 2 doors on this upper floor. We came in on the lower floor, and not finding any illusory walls. So we have across the way here with the fancy door, and then we have this door here, and I believe that's it. So let's start with the not fancy door and see where that takes us. One of those, I'm sure, will take us to the higher room above where we fought that sage. Those enemies, I'm almost positive at this point, having run into them enough. I was calling them speedy guys for a long time, but apparently they're called sages. I guess the wrists that you pick up along the way in the Chalice dungeons, the sages' wrists, and I think you can also get other body parts and things from them, those are all come from those enemies, I guess, is the idea. Which is kind of neat, because gets at the whole idea of relics, and how those are all, you know, supposed to be the body parts of saints. But when you're actually crawling through a dungeon like this and you pick up some sage's wrists and you use those as ritual materials in a holy communion ritual that brings you to a labyrinthian dungeon, it's it's something else. And as you can probably... Ooh, 4 blood vials. That's good. As you can probably tell by the fact that I'm kind of stuttering on by, or talking about whatever comes to mind, I'm still in the midst of experimenting a little bit with how I talk about things during these episodes, how I attempt to deal with both navigating my way through here and trying to discuss things that interest me, maybe keep things more interesting for people who are watching. Oops. Alright, let's go... Ow. Can I go back where there's light? Yes, I can. I thought I was a goner in that confined space there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, that's another change that I've made. Oops, that's bad. I've upgraded my gun. For a long time, I had a plus 6, I believe, is where my Tonitrus is at. But the gun that I had for ages was at like a +2 or a +3. I'm almost positive it is now up to +5. So that's another slight change between episodes that you can pay attention to. Boy, gave me those 4 blood vials and I burned right through them. I guess it's a good thing they gave them to me. And oh, this happened to be the way that opens the big boss door. Interesting. I was expecting this section to be longer. Well, I guess we do have that other door to try. But I was expecting this section to be longer. The first floor of this dungeon was pretty expansive, I think. I remember there being an offshoot before we got to the main lamp, and then the main section of the dungeon itself, and then the section before the boss, and then the boss section. I might be getting confused. Honestly, it's tough to keep track, but I'm pretty sure I remember that being the case. But both Layer 2 and Layer 3 so far seem like they're relatively short. We'll see what happens. Maybe there will be a really long section either here or right before the boss door. That'll be interesting. And things are taking damage. That means the last time that happened, it meant that enemies were near some sort of source of poison, and the poison was slowly killing them as they walked around in it. And I'm seeing some poison here. So I'm just gonna hang out a bit for just a little while here and let that poison do its work. And what do we have here? Whatever that is isn't coming towards me, so it can just keep getting poisoned to death. I'm very content with that. That explosion, on the other hand, doesn't bode too well. I wonder if that's a giant or an enemy manipulating a cannon. Let's run forward and find out. I'm pretty sure, based on the room, yep, it's an enemy manipulating a cannon. Which, much better than having to deal with the giant. But, still potentially quite deadly. So, moving around. But yeah, as I was saying, ooh, yay, blood vials. As I was saying, I am still trying, despite my utter inability so far this episode, to talk about things beyond the scope of the immediate play of what's occupying my mind at the moment. So we will continue to see how successful or unsuccessful that is, and how interesting or uninteresting that may be. Boy, that's a lot of ways to say nothing. But, yeah, to continue with the idea of storytelling mechanics, because, again, that's kind of one of the things I'm most interested in about video games and how they communicate ideas. Whoa, hello! One more strike! Oh, I knew it was coming. It didn't kill me. I'm very glad it didn't kill me. Boy, that enemy was far away. Whatever it is that's dying to poison is a long way away from the entrance. Very far away for me to be seeing that health bar. I'm gonna heal up just in case, because these, whatever's down here does a whole bunch of damage. But, oh boy, this is a big room. I spoke too soon about this place being small. It's like whenever I start to complain about one of these places possibly being on the small side, they throw a very large area at me. But these guys... Wow! I was about to say these guys at least don't hit too hard, but they just killed me, so I guess I can't say that. Oh well. Shouldn't be that big of a run back. Shouldn't be too hard to get back there. And we've already opened the pathway to the boss, so might just pop in there, see if we have a third section to deal with or not. We will have to see. And I remember you right here by the door. Unfortunately, my remembering didn't do me all that much good because I couldn't figure out where to place my attacks. But let's peek down here and see what we're dealing with in terms of potential other side paths. Looks like there is one. Looks like, yep, we do have another side path before the boss. So I was curious about that. We'll probably end up cutting, well, not cutting, but ending one episode before we get to that, before we get to exploring that final section pre-boss. That should work out nicely. And I believe we go up here and through what was the ornate door. And I think this... Oop, I spoke too soon. I think that, the one that's off to the side, is the non-ornate door. And this, which would lead to a pit of poison, well, not really a pit, but a floor of poison, a brief floor of poison. Yes. And this is where he found the enemy with the cannon, so I'm going to run forward. Yep. Very slow on that cannon, which I'm happy about. Excellent. Excellent. And don't have to do any more exploration. We can just continue to retrace our steps. Yeah, okay. Not that bad of a run back. Hopefully we can get our blood echoes back! Yikes! I forgot about this guy. I don't know why. Clearly, one of the issues... Oh, man! I dealt with upon coming to this place the first time almost killed me. And I totally forgot about him anyway. Okay, come on. Make a swing. Thank you. Alright. Timed that pistol pretty well. Ooh, and it did a good amount of damage too, so I can finish him. Excellent. Blood echoes retrieved. That's a nice thing to see. Alright. Let's, round two. Those of you who will run towards me over here. I will charge up my weapon, and this time, it's not going to go like, whoa, like it did before. Thought I would get that dodge and not be in any trouble at all, but instead, I had to rely a bit on the regain system. But, working out. But anyway, I keep trying to talk about something I appreciate about the way that systems in games can be used for storytelling, and keep getting interrupted by thoughts in the moment. But what I kind of had in mind is something that I thought of while I was editing the last set of episodes for the Chalice Chat series, where I was in a situation where I was talking about the interrelation between beasthood, frenzy, and insight. And I couldn't remember frenzy, which is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you're preoccupied trying not die and play with some measure of skill and ability. Oh boy, I don't like that sound. Something is wise to me, and it's going to attack. Maybe not? I could have sworn there was someone behind here who moved and... Oh, yep, there they are. Hello. Swing. Uh-oh. Okay, that was good. Got a bit of a stagger on that hit. And a little bit more. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Alright, and I think I already checked this. And there's a root growing out it anyway. But yeah, Frenzy is one of those mechanics that I think illustrates something that helps games to stand out in terms of their ability to communicate story ideas. Because it's a mechanic in the game, but it's also something that makes sense. So one of the things about Bloodborne that people talk about a lot is how Lovecraftian it is. And one of the things that is famous about Lovecraftian works is how things are very often described in fiction as simply being maddening to look upon. And really the idea that something, just the sight of something can drive you mad, can't really be dealt with. Ooh, dodged that trap. Can't really be dealt with all that effectively in a visual medium like film, for instance. And it's kind of interesting in that I've always really been into reading, and it's kind of interesting to me how sometimes a video game adaptation of a literary idea can be more compelling than a movie adaptation of that kind of idea. And Frenzy, I think, is one of those instances, because it takes the idea of you going insane and then from being in something's presence and suffering those ill effects. And at the same time, you get to see you get to see the meter building up as you watch this effect take place. So it's like you can watch yourself slowly becoming more and more frenzied, slowly losing more and more of yourself. And finally, it culminates in this massive burst of damage. What you might call psychic damage, I suppose. From being unable to be in the presence of these things that drive you insane. And it's a really neat moment that is achieved via game system and also via the naming. Because obviously, if they didn't call it Frenzy, or at least something that had anything to do with the process of going mad, you wouldn't draw that connection. And again, just the whole intersection of where story and mechanics combine is something that interests me a great deal. But I am starting to get horribly lost, despite the fact that I have not left this one room. And yeah, I'm not entirely convinced I've formed any coherent thoughts as I've try to go through this process. So I'm going to switch back for a little bit to the more in-the-moment style and make a little bit of sense of this room. Oh, this looks like a one-way door. Yes, that is a one-way door. I suspect that I will be able to work my way back here from that section that we saw earlier right before the boss. Because a lot of the times, those one-way doors, not always, as we saw in one of the other episodes, but a lot of the times, those one-way doors are used to connect portions of the dungeons that otherwise do not connect. They give you kind of extra shortcuts. So, alright, we had the one-way door down that way, and I believe there was only one other doorway down this way. Oh, and there are treasure chests. I forgot. I'd been ignoring them, because in general, if there's a whole bunch of enemies wandering around, you don't want to be just kind of picking your way through treasure chests, getting stuck and locked in place, and good way to get yourself ambushed. But it is important to remember to open the treasure chests after you have cleared out. Oh boy! Oh, okay. I thought it was an arrow trap. It was a guillotine trap, and glad I did not. I'm glad I happened to dodge to the side rather than try and go forward. Uh-oh. Someone is shooting at me from above, which means there's a ladder. Yep, there's that ladder. What else have we got? Is there anyone else down on this level? Doesn't look like it, but there is another door over there. Maybe I've been fooled again. Maybe that's the other door, and this is all just a loop around. We will find out. In the meantime, let's go up and deal with whoever's shooting at us. Wow, oh, that's the grab attack. Try and get out of that. Try and get out of that. Ooh, got out of it, and got shot to death. Oh, well. I'll be back. Okay, unlike last time, that was pretty far in, so I'm going to do something risky and try and just run back. Try and just go in a straight shot all the way back to where I left off, because I would really like to be, to not have to deal with all of the enemies in that room that I carefully dealt with before. I would really like to be able to bypass all of that trouble, because I feel like I got most of the treasure that I wanted to get there. Boy, there are a lot of these guys. Boy, there are a lot of them. And I totally forget where that door was. Okay, here's the treasure chest I found, so I am going the right way to get back to that door. Yep, here we are. Here we are. Oh boy, I forgot about the guillotine. Alright, heal, heal. Excellent. Still alive. And let's deal with the followers now. Boy, I wonder if any of them got caught in the guillotine. That would be funny. Oh, this guy didn't. I wish he had. Alright, come on. Lightning in the dark. Did he even set off the guillotine? Maybe the enemies can't set it off. I bet they can get hit by it if I set it off, though. Okay. So long to you. Alright, let's try and maybe do a little bit better about climbing up this ladder this time. That would be nice. Oop, wrong side. Okay. So I think what I'm gonna do is run over this way so that they... Uh-oh, that's bad. Ooh, dodge just in time. And continue to dodge. Okay, I got in a hit, but I got hit, and I need to move. And yep, there we go. There go all those blood echoes. Well, that was an ignoble death. But not to worry, I'll be back soon. And actually, glancing over at my little timer, I can see that, in fact, I have been talking on here for quite a while at this point. And I think now might be a good time, as I try and seek my revenge, to take a bit of an episode break. So I will bid you farewell for now. Hopefully I can come back and get my revenge in the next episode, get those blood echoes, well, I can't get the blood echoes back, but do a bit more damage to the enemies and get my revenge in that fashion. And yeah, I hope to see you then. Hope you enjoyed this one. As always, thanks for watching, everyone.